Let me tell you a story from old times. A story about kindness, about choices, and about how the smallest acts of compassion can shape the destiny of a life, and even of generations to come. These are tales from ancient China, but they are not only old folk stories, they are mirrors that reflect who we are, what we value, and how the world quietly responds to the way we treat others. This first story begins near the end of the Ming Dynasty, in a small southern village called Cottonwood. There lived a young man named Ding Zhuan. He was not rich, but he was hardworking and honest. Every day he carried baskets of goods across villages, selling here and there, saving coin by coin. Ding Zhuan was already in his 20s, strong, capable, with a face that showed both intelligence and sincerity, and yet, he remained unmarried. Why? Because across his right cheek ran a scar thin, long, the width of a finger. To some, it made him look rugged, but to most young women and their families, it was enough reason to refuse him. Matchmakers would come, look at him, then shake their heads. Ding Zhuan watched his friends marry, build families, and even raise children of their own. At night, after returning from his long day of trade, he would lie awake with an ache in his chest, longing for companionship, more than wealth or fame. What he wanted was simple: a wife to share his life, children to carry laughter into his home. One afternoon, while carrying his baskets into a new village, Ding Zhuan saw something that made his heart tighten. A group of children were chasing a ragged woman, throwing stones at her, laughing cruelly. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled like straw. She tried to cover her face, but her eyes were wide with helplessness. Ding Zhuan dropped his baskets, rushed forward, and shouted the children away. He reached into his basket and pulled out a cornbread cake, handing it gently to the woman. She took it with trembling hands, eyes welling with tears, eyes full of sorrow, but also glimmers of gratitude. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. She was mute. The villagers explained her name was Fu Duong. She had once been a bright, beautiful girl, born into hardship. Her father died young, her mother remarried, and she was left to live with her uncle and aunt. For a while, life was bearable, but at 16, sickness struck. She survived, but lost her voice, and her mind grew dim, leaving her like a child. To her relatives, she became a burden. They cast her out, leaving her to wander, beg for food, and sleep among haystacks. Villagers pitied her, giving scraps, but she remained an outcast, mocked by children, pitied by few. Hearing this, Ding Zhuan felt a deep ache. He tore another piece of bread from his basket and handed it to her. Then he lifted his baskets and continued walking. But after a while, he noticed something strange. Fu was following him. When he walked, she walked. When he stopped, she stopped. Finally, Ding Zhuan turned, placed his baskets down, and looked at her carefully. "If you are willing," he said softly, "you can come home with me." She nodded at once. And so, from that day on, they lived together. Ding Zhuan treated her not as a wife, but as a younger sister in need of care. He bathed her, bought her clean clothes, kept her safe. Under his care, she slowly changed. 2 years passed, and Fu's beauty began to bloom again, her mind becoming clearer day by day. Though still silent, she now carried herself with grace. Villagers, seeing this, advised Ding Zhuan, "She is a good woman. Why not marry her?" He always refused, saying, "She is like my sister." Yet one stormy night, after returning from work, he found that Fu had prepared food, poured wine, and blushing, had quietly placed a quilt on his bed. That night, their lives intertwined as husband and wife. A year later, they welcomed a daughter, whom they named Ding Yu, meaning music, joy. Little Yu grew up under her parents' warmth, becoming a graceful, talented young woman. At 16, she married a poor scholar named Li Mingyi. For years, Mingyi had studied but failed his exams. Yet astonishingly, within a year of marrying Yu, he passed and became a county magistrate. Soon, he brought the family to live with him in the county seat. From there, his career blossomed, his honesty and talent recognized by higher officials. Ding Yu became the gentle, wise wife of a rising statesman. Ding Zhuan and Fu spent their old age surrounded by grandchildren, their once lonely home now filled with prosperity and laughter. The villagers whispered, Ding Zhuan's kindness had brought him fortune. By saving one mute, abandoned girl, he had unknowingly saved himself and blessed his descendants. Now, let me share with you another tale, this one from the Qing dynasty, during the reign of Emperor Qianlong. It is the story of a man named Zhuan Folk Li. So, what do these two stories of Ding Zhuan and Fu of Zhuan Folk Li and Tichan truly mean? At first glance, they are old folk tales, tales our ancestors might have whispered by lamplight or told to children before sleep. But if we look deeper, we see they are not just fantasies, they are mirrors, reflecting a principle that has stood the test of time. Kindness plants seeds, and sooner or later, those seeds will bear fruit. Think of Ding Zhuan. He was poor, lonely, scarred. The world had not been kind to him. Yet when he saw a mute, outcast woman being mocked, he did not join the laughter, nor turn away. He gave her bread, a small act. And yet, from that act, a whole life blossomed. A wife, a daughter, a son-in-law, who rose to honor grandchildren, filling the home with joy. Now think of Jean Fouque. He was cheated by fate, orphaned young, struggling daily. And when even the woman he trusted seemed to rob him, he did not curse, he did not chase her down, he did not let bitterness rot his soul. He simply said, if she needed it, let it be my gift. From that acceptance, from that mercy, his destiny unfolded. A wife, prosperity, respect, the very fortune the fortune teller had promised. What do these stories tell us? That life is not a straight road of reward and punishment. Fate often tests us. It hides blessings inside what looks like misfortune. It asks, will you stay kind, even when the world seems unkind? Will you hold on to compassion, even when you have been hurt? Those who answer yes may not see results tomorrow, or even next year. But just as a seed takes time to sprout, bloom, and fruit, kindness too takes time. When it does ripen, it blesses not only the one who planted it, but often their children and their children's children. This is why old wisdom says, a family that accumulates virtue will always have blessings in abundance. And what of those who choose the opposite path? We also see them in these tales. Remember the villagers who mocked, the children who threw stones, the jealous man who tried to seize what was not his. Their laughter, their greed, their cruelty brought nothing lasting. In the end, they faded, or they fell into ruin. For though evil may seem to win quickly, it burns itself out just as quickly. Kindness, by contrast, is like a slow fire, gentle, enduring, warming generations. Now let us step out of the ancient villages and into our world today. Do these principles still apply? Look around. In every society, in every time, you will find people like Ding Zhuan, ordinary, overlooked, carrying scars. You will find people like Fufi, abandoned, mocked, vulnerable. You will find people like Xuan Fakpo, tested, tempted to despair. And yes, you will find people like the jealous villager, greedy, envious, seeking shortcuts. But also, in every society you will see the same outcomes. The greedy might grab attention for a moment, but eventually their house of cards collapses. The kind, the patient, the humble slowly, steadily, their lives become rooted, their families stable, their names remembered with respect. Think of the people you admire most. Is it the one who built wealth by stepping on others? Or is it the one who helped, who gave, who stayed true to their heart even when no one was watching? That is why these old tales still matter. They remind us of something we already know deep inside but often forget in the rush of modern life. What you give to the world returns to you, sometimes in ways you cannot imagine. Ding Zhuan gave bread to a mute woman, and in return received a family legacy. Zhuan Fouque gave forgiveness to a woman who seemed to betray him, and in return received love and prosperity. So let us ask ourselves, what are we giving today? Is it only suspicion, only competition, only anger? Then those seeds will one day grow, and we may not like the fruit. But if we give kindness, patience, generosity in small, hidden ways, then in time, blessings will come. Maybe to us, maybe to our children. And here lies the most beautiful truth. You do not need to be rich or powerful to plant such seeds. Ding Zhuan was a poor trader. Jean Fouque was an orphan farmer. They had almost nothing, yet they gave what they could. A piece of bread, 3 copper coins, a forgiving heart. That was enough to change everything. Jean Fouque was born into poverty. His parents passed away when he was young, leaving him with nothing but a dilapidated house and a small piece of land. Life was harsh, yet he endured, plowing the soil, doing odd jobs, and living on the edge of survival. Though he was poor, he carried a resilient spirit and a kind heart. One day, as he was working in town, he met a traveling tanner. The old man studied his face carefully and said, "Young man, do not despair. Your luck will change this year, and next year. Heaven will send you money from above." Jean Fouque chuckled. To him, these were just comforting words. How could money fall from the sky? He bowed politely, thanked the old man, and went back to his humble life. But fate had its own plans. Not long after, in the bustling market, he saw an old woman sitting by the roadside. Her clothes were ragged, her face lined with age. Hanging around her neck was a wooden board that read, "For 3 copper coins, by me as your mother." People stopped, stared, and laughed cruelly. Some mocked her, others pitied her, but no one reached out. Most thought she was insane. Yet when Jean-Folk saw her, his heart trembled. He thought of his own mother, long gone. The longing in his chest was unbearable. He stepped forward, placed 3 copper coins into her wrinkled hand, and said softly, "From now on, I am your son. Come home with me." The crowd erupted in laughter. They called him a fool, mocked him for wasting money on madness. But Jean-Folk didn't care. He took the old woman home, gave her food, and for the first time in years, his small house felt warm. The old woman, true to her word, began to treat him like a son. She cooked meals, swept the floor, washed his clothes. For the first time, Jean-Folk felt the comfort of a family again. But just as he was beginning to rely on her, something shocking happened. One day he returned home to find the old woman gone. Along with her, all the coins he had saved for marriage had disappeared. His heart broke. For a night, he sat in silence, staring at the empty room. Yet after the pain settled, he told himself, "So be it. I called her mother. If she needed it, let it be my gift to her." He picked up his tools and went back to work, never speaking of the loss. A month passed. One morning, as he prepared his meager breakfast, a young woman appeared at his door. She was graceful, with eyes as clear as spring water. She bowed and introduced herself as Tu-chan. With her was the old woman. The old woman smiled. "My son," she said, "I did not abandon you. I wanted to test your heart. You proved yourself kind, patient, and true. This is my daughter-in-law Tu-chan. I now entrust her to you." Jean-Folk was speechless. What he thought was betrayal turned out to be a blessing. He and Tu-chan were married, and together they built a household filled with love. Tu-chan was gentle, hard-working, and wise. With her by his side, Jean-Folk's fortunes began to change. His trade prospered. His honesty earned him trust. Soon, he was no longer the poor orphan but a respected merchant. And so, the fortune-teller's words came true. Money did come from the heavens, but not in the way Jean-Folk expected. It came not as coins falling from the sky, but as the reward for a heart that chose goodness over bitterness, compassion over suspicion. Meanwhile, those who mocked him faced their own struggles. One villager, jealous of Jean-Folk, tried to take shortcuts and seize others' wealth. In the end, his greed led him to ruin. Jean-Folk, on the other hand, grew old, surrounded by children and grandchildren. His wealth was not only in silver but in love, respect, and peace of mind. And so, through these 2 old tales, we see a simple truth. Blessings or misfortunes are not decided by chance alone. They are sown in the soil of our own actions, our own hearts. Those who give kindness, even when poor, even when mocked, will one day find peace and joy flowing back to them. Those who choose cruelty, greed, or scorn may shine for a moment, but their light soon fades. In our modern lives, we too face moments like the people in these stories. We may feel poor, alone, betrayed, or misunderstood. And in those moments, the real question is not, why is fate unfair? But rather, how will I choose to respond? If we can keep an open heart, if we can refuse to let bitterness rule us, then no matter how heavy the trial, there will always be a path forward. And sometimes, the reward comes in ways we could never have expected. So remember this, whatever seeds you plant, those are the fruits you will one day harvest. A smile, a little compassion, a forgiving word, these small things can grow into blessings not just for us, but for our children and their children after them. The story ends here, but the echo remains. Live with kindness. Blessings never vanish, they only take the long road before finding their way back to you.